Welcome to the Ask Coach Mac podcast, where coaches from around the world get their strength and conditioning questions answered.
What's up, guys? Ron McKeefery here, and welcome to episode number 34 of Ask Coach Mac. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a great question from Kurt. Before we get to that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Iron Grip. If you're in the market for plates or dumbbells, these are my go-to guys. I've put Iron Grip plates and dumbbells in 3 facilities, including my own garage, where my family and I work out. I have had nothing but positive experiences with them and love the fact that they're manufactured in the U.S. For more information, go to irongrip.com, follow them on Twitter, or call Chris DeSanto at 509-230-3124. All right, here's today's question from Kurt.
Hey, Coach Mac, this is Kurt Surratt from Grand Rapids, Michigan. How would you handle a non-coachable athlete or disgruntled athlete?
Kurt, great question, and this is something that you don't learn in biology class. You don't learn in exercise science major. You don't necessarily learn how to deal with people, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. So when dealing with a difficult athlete in the moment, because I've answered some questions like this on the show in the past, but in the moment I don't think I've talked about, and oftentimes that's where, especially when you're young, sometimes you confuse emotion with passion, and you can be passionate without emotion in the moment, and so I think the very first thing you have to do is you have to remove the athlete from the environment. Oftentimes it's in a group setting. You're in a lift group, you're in a run group or something along those lines, and it's basically you versus them in front of 100 other boys or whatever, and so sometimes they feel like they need to bow up or be a certain way because they got lots of different people looking at them, and sometimes the vice versa. You feel like you have to be a certain way because there's people around. And so I think the very first thing is removing them from the environment. Once you got them removed, and do that as emotionless as you can. Just say, hey, let's go, and hand it off to an assistant or something along those lines, or tell them, that you'll talk to them later, and remove them from the workout. But then once you have that moment, allow them the opportunity to fully speak their mind. Most of the time they just don't feel like, athletes just don't feel like they're being heard, that they're not getting their point of view across. And so let them, to say, hey, look, what's going on? Go ahead, let me hear it, from your perspective, and then I would ask several times in that situation, are you done? Is there anything else that you'd like to say? And get it to a point where they absolutely have nothing else to say. And then basically go from there. Ask them, what you would do in that situation. If you had an athlete acting that way, or if you had an athlete that was carrying on that way, have them put themselves in your shoes. Let them see you as a human being. So many times as coaches, we want to just be this authoritative voice. And, Derek Dooley would always have a great saying with his coaches. And he'd always say that coaches were once athletes too, and so sometimes as coaches, we don't always grow up and we don't always act the way that we want to act. So recognizing that as a coach, we are human and we don't always handle things the right way is important, and letting let the athletes know that. Let them know that, hey, look, you're a human being, and so sometimes you're not going to handle things the right way. I think so much of this can be handled by setting the table at the very beginning. When I sit down with our athletes, I call it their why meeting. One of the things I do in that meeting is I get their permission to coach them hard, and so sometimes that, I guess, again, in the moment with emotion, and you're pushing them to push past barriers that they've never gone through. Sometimes that has volatility to it, so reminding them of that conversation, saying, hey, look, I told you on the front end and got your permission to coach you hard. Yeah, that wasn't just for show. That wasn't just to get you, excited about the program. That was because of moments like this, and reminding them of that. And then at the end of the day, you have to, if you're wrong, you need to apologize to them and apologize to the team. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with again, showing vulnerability, showing that you're a human, walking out and saying, hey, look, I just had a chance to talk with, Bobby Joe, And you know what? I didn't handle that situation right. And so I want to apologize to Bobby Joe. I want to let you guys know that I'm gonna work to improve that in the future. And you know what? We're freaking all human beings, and I hope that you can understand that. And I tell you that little moments like that make a big difference to the team. You know, showing that and not just pounding your chest and being the guy up in front. You know, if you are correct, you know, you need to give them a choice to get in line or remove themselves from the situation. You know, try not to harp on what's been done or said. You know, that doesn't mean that there can't be accountability. You know, if it warrants accountability, then, you know, be non-emotional about it. Say, look, you chose, by your actions, you chose to do this. I hope you understand that, but, you know, this is what the situation calls for. If it's something that's not worth that kind of accountability, then you know what, just give them an opportunity to move forward and do it in the right way. You know, or go. If not, remove them from the situation. You know, to say, hey, look, you know, it's best that you move on. You know, I'm gonna let your position coach know. I'm gonna let your head coach know. As a group of coaches here, we're gonna determine what the next course of action is. But basically, what you're choosing to do by walking out of here and removing yourself from the situation is for me to bring this to the forefront with our coaching staff. You know, and most times, 9 times out of 10, they don't want that. You know, and most of the time, you've already gotten it resolved by then. It doesn't even lead to that. So, Kurt, I hope that answers your question. Would love to hear what everyone else thinks. Use the hashtag AskCoachMac to continue discussion over on Twitter. Thanks for your question, Kurt. I want to encourage everyone else that if you have a question that you would like to potentially be featured on the show, head over to AskCoachMac.com. There you can ask your question by hitting the record button at the bottom of the page. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And here's a quote to finish the day by Paul Packy. The art of dealing with people is the foremost secret of successful men. A man's success in handling people is the very yardstick by which the outcome of his whole life's work is measured. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode of Ask Coach Mac. Bye for now.